All right. So happy Friday, somber Friday, I know, but happy Friday anyway, to our DFM Data Steering Committee meeting. It is September 11th, 2020. And we have Jeff Hurley, Michael Darden, and Linda Getz. John
Hello.
Sent his apologies, and Denise McCurdy.
And we can send him the recording if we record.
Yeah,
we are.
We are.
Cool.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, it didn't come up on one of my screens saying we were recording, but it did show on the other. Sorry about that.
Always ask, please.
Yep, I just want to make, especially if somebody's not going to be there, I want to make sure that we have it at that point so that everybody.
Yeah, because sometimes I do forget. I try to wait until the preamble, the intros, and then I hit record, and sometimes I forget. So yeah, definitely always ask. And by the way, just so you guys know, I include an external link to the recording on the bottom of the meeting minutes. So if you ever want to go back and look at it, you always will see it on the bottom of the meeting minutes, okay? And these are also posted on the Google Drive. So on the Google Drive, I have a folder for every single steering committee meeting, which includes the minutes and then this PowerPoint deck. And then I also have a folder for the final and approved governance docs. So we have 4 in there right now. Well, we have more than that, but we'll get the member agreements, we got the MOU, so 2 each, we got the privacy policy and antitrust. So that file will just get bigger.
So I will share just as a point of understanding or for thought here, it might make sense, and I hadn't thought about it until just this moment when you were saying that, but for access to our Google Drive, it might make sense for John Greaves, and if he was going to need access to that drive, and Linda, to be able to have a DFM data email address that would enable them access to that shared drive.
Yay, one more email address to manage.
That's what you need, right, Linda?
Very excited.
It's still with G Suite, so you should be able to add it in without too much complexity. But
I'm happy to do that, and it would be a convenience for sure.
Yeah, I think it would make for file sharing a whole lot better. So we should just take a note, Denise, to do that. I don't think that's an action of the steering committee or anything like that, but it's just we just need to set up the email address.
Okay, and that's something, Michael, that you do?
Yeah, just take a note as an action for us to do outside of here. It's
okay.
I'll set it up with Shane.
Okay, got it. All right, making a note. Okay, so I will review the antitrust policy. Neither DFM Data 4 Inc. or DFM DC nor its committees and activities shall be used for the purpose of bringing about and or attempting to bring about any understanding or agreement, written or oral, formal or informal, expressed or implied, between and among competitors with regard to prices, terms and or conditions of sale, credit terms, or marketing practices. I assume there's no questions. So the agenda today, we've done the roll call, and I need just a moment to review the agenda, and then I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda. So what we're going to do today is look at the minutes from last meeting. We have a few things teed up to discuss today, potentially to vote, we'll see. New business and adjournment. So a fairly easy day today. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve. That's a second. I mean, I think you can put our names in whatever order you want.
Got it. Okay. Got it. Thank you for that. All right. And the meeting minutes went out last Friday. Has everyone had, before I go, any opposition to moving forward with the agenda?
Nope.
Okay.
And yes, I did receive the minutes, reviewed them, and responded on behalf of the board. So.
Excellent. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes? I assume everyone's had them for a week now, so I assume everyone's had a chance to read them.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Okay. Linda's got it this time, then I'll second.
Linda and Jeff. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So for discussion today, we have specifically, I took the action to come up with a framework for the working groups, which we will discuss in a minute. We do need to rename the utilization working group to the operations working group. The reason for that is because we have the modules, which just need to correspond directly to the same name as the working groups. Just makes it easier for all using the same, same definition, same terms. Other than that, though, there's no content inside the utilization working group that changes. It's just the name. We do not have documents to review. We were supposed to have documents to review. We have a new attorney at Sparks Legal who I think is going down the right path, certainly for the license agreement, and that he's making it, first of all, it's much, much easier to read. The first part is 2 pages, it's static. So as we add solutions or additional features to the DFMDC utility, they become exhibits. So it's just a much, much easier read. Again, we were supposed to have had it. We should get it by this weekend. So we'll have it to you to review, certainly before Friday. So hopefully we'll have a chance to actually vote on it next Friday. Michael, did you have anything to add there?
Just the fact that the intent was to be able to have them. We did have several working groups sessions with this this new attorney, and he does seem competent in being able to understand what our issue is and simplify the language of the complex co-brokering agent, SaaS provider, broker A, broker B agreement that was drafted previously. He seemed to grasp the players and the fact that we wanted to have the meat of the document simplified and the optionality be representative in the exhibits. So I think he's close to there. There was unfortunately just a small communication glitch of time frame that made him think that we were okay with receiving the documents over the weekend, and he had committed to us that he was going to have them to us on Thursday afternoon. And Thursday afternoon comes and we're sending messages and where is it? And finally today they've realized that he's now out of pocket and thought that he had until the weekend to finish it. So they're going to issue a credit and they're apologetic, but there was a lot of progress made on it. So we were looking forward to being able to go over documents. I really hate to lose a whole nother week. And I'm planning on, as soon as I get this on Monday, to be able to make sure that it's shared with everybody as quickly as possible. And, these meetings don't have to be 30 minutes long or an hour long. And if we have something that can be, just reviewed, identified, shared with people beforehand, a quick agenda done and over, that can also be a meeting that is actionable. And before we just push this off till next Friday, I would leave the option open for us having this on Monday with attorneys' apologies and see if we can get to the point where we can have a 5-minute meeting to complete the if there's no big exceptions. I mean, if people read the document and obviously it doesn't cover what we're trying to do, then we need to have a working session around what that is. But
yeah, I'm game to address this on Monday, and honestly happy that it wasn't ready before today, because it's been a time crunch. I would not have had the time frame to review it as effectively as I would have wanted to. So that's
fair commentary.
Appropriate timing is. I'm sorry that it didn't match the expectations that you had with the lawyer, but I think that could work well, and I'm happy to look at my schedule on Monday to address review.
Yeah, I think we should do that and get it on the calendar, and then kind of check off the whole document review piece for the rest of this meeting, and let Denise get into the framework for the working groups, and see if we have any new business to be able to discuss.
Yeah, I have availability currently between 11 and 12 and between 1:30 and 4 on Monday.
I'm good for either one of those.
1:30 through 4 works better for me.
Okay.
Well, and that frame is open for me as well.
Okay. If we could make it 2 to 4, I'm going to be doing a podcast that's scheduled for an hour, but knowing how they sometimes run and the prequel and the follow-up, if we could do 2 to 4 or 2 to 3:30, that would be great.
Works for me.
I will check
Okay.
with them, but I'll put I can do a 2 to 4, and then if we get done early, we get done early as an ad hoc. I think that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, this is an important document as well.
Yeah, it is. It is. Okay, I've taken the action to do that, so you will see that incoming.
Thank you.
Anything else to add to the agenda as new business?
Not for me.
Nothing that I'm aware of.
All right. So the working group framework. We had previously approved the steering committee roles and responsibilities, not a steering committee working group, but a steering committee roles and responsibilities, and a utilization working group. And as I had mentioned a few minutes ago, we would like to rename the utilization working group to operations working group. That way it matches the module completely. So I'd like to first take a vote to make that change. Nothing else has changed is with regard to the charter.
Yeah, motion to approve.
Second?
Seconded. Denise, SLAs are coming off of that one, right? Or is that still being reported?
I'm sorry, what was that, Jeff?
SLA reporting goes to IT, correct?
It does go to IT.
Okay.
It does. And I did actually move it to the IT, so we can move into that conversation. So we will change the name from utilization to operations working group. And thank you for that. And I'll capture that in the minutes. Okay, so this is the rest of when I say the rest of, these are proposed, and I have, by the way, not just, this is a framework, the purpose, voting rights, and voting capabilities, but I also have a more descriptive explanation behind each one of these working groups, sort of keeping the same format and nomenclature that we use for the others that have been previously approved. So I'd like to just get into each one. This is the accounting working group. This is not meant to be because these aren't going to be these are going to be approved but not populated, and that was the agreement that we struck last week. So the purpose of this, go ahead.
Bullet point 4 is written in that invisible ink.
Get rid of that. So the purpose of this is just to have some broad structure and to stand it up, and then come back when we need to, and populate it with people, and then further define the goals, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll just give you guys a moment to look at this.
So Denise, there's a whole section that needs to be included in the accounting piece as far as like their profile and the privacy. I mean, this is banking information for routing numbers and bank accounts for EFTs. So at some point, the goals inside of the working group have to include the different mechanisms for facilitating their payment and putting profiles in to be able to authenticate to those protocols. It's just part of what the accounting working group is. I mean, review billing and transaction issues is half operational. I mean, it only gets to accounting if the operations folks, said that there was something that didn't take place with it, I would think. But again, this is supposed to be just a framework of this, and we don't need to be able to wordsmith every word that's inside of here unless we choose to spend this time of this call to be able to do that. The objective of our last call, and as was stated by the steering committee, was to be able to set up a framework for those working groups and to propose them. So I think the first one that you pulled up here of accounting just has a very relevant element here of the fact that there's some privacy and there's a profile of the company that is going to be working with us and potentially working with other DFMs. That doing that know your customer component, I think, has to be part of what this working group's objective is, to be able to protect and serve.
I think that's a really good add. So I could just include the KYC onboarding, relative to all accounting and banking responsibilities.
I think that's part of it, right? 'Cause, I mean, and Linda, you know a lot about this sort of credentialing.
Is this going to include whitelisting them to participate in the Series A? Or coming in as accredited investors, I guess?
So the accounting module will have a document, or does have a documents tab, that those sort of documents would be associated with the accounting function of the accreditation, or our financial statements, our financial documents. So I can envision that the same way that we have under the governance module, the documents that are, related to, if somebody's selected, the fact that they wanted to potentially invest in the company, that they would have those documents made available to them from the documents portal of the accounting module.
Yeah, I guess where I'm having a little bit of a question mark is the distinction between DFM, the company with the business processes necessary to run company business, and the steering committee setting up processes and procedures to help facilitate the marketplace aggregation in a going forward sort of way. So I'm kind of looking at this.
So right now there's no participants in working groups.
Right.
There's 0 participants for them. And the only way somebody can be a participant in the working group is that they become a DFM member, and that they become a member in good standing by completing the paperwork. And at that point, then they would get a option to participate in the working groups of each of the different modules and bring ideas from the bottom side up. Initially, all of the work is being done by the steering committee, with the objective of being able to facilitate the environment that enables the DFMs to come on board. So you're doing all of that. All of this work of setting up the working group so that they have a place to have a voice is part of that steering committee work. And it's laying the highway path before you pave it.
Yeah, the KYC AML stuff is just functional. It's already in place. There's policies around how that's supposed to be administered. I was just trying to sort out why that would be a necessary part of the accounting working group.
I think I know what you're meaning, because to me, the working groups aren't meant to define the onboarding processes and procedures. That's DFMDC. The working groups are, once things are stood up, is for all the DFMs to get together and talk about some of their common concerns, features they'd like to have, that sort of thing. It's not necessarily onboarding. Is that what you're thinking, Linda?
Yeah, I mean, that's just where my question mark was, because it seems like there's not a lot of conversation to be had around some of those things, other than it needs to be implemented and it needs to be part of the onboarding procedure for the DFMs coming on board. I just think that's a business process that isn't within the purview of the steering committee. Just a personal
I think you're
perspective.
Right. 4 may be the same. 4 seems like it's an internal to DFMDC. It seems more like an internal process in terms of identifying and reviewing reporting requirements.
And that was really the intent, and you'll see the similar language on the other working groups, is the assumption that we have DFM members who are sitting on these working groups, who are talking about their experiences and things they'd like to have. At that point, they're already onboarded.
Right. But internal to DFMDC, there definitely needs to be the business process flow that includes the KYC, AML, all of the fundamentals of whitelisting institutional investors and having that, be done right. But it doesn't need a governance action particularly.
Yeah, and frankly, the same for two, right? Review of billing and transaction issues. That's operational stuff that's happening. You might want to have a dispute resolution, protocol.
That would be valuable.
Yeah, that would be very valuable, actually. Yeah, I like that.
But I think that the billing and transactions is, it's just not relevant for what the working group would have as its goals. I don't think.
Go ahead, Linda.
Part of the conversation around as there's more volume of DFMs having, a scale upon which fees can be reduced, is that kind of conversation something that would be within the purview of an accounting working group, or is that just a business decision on your part, Michael?
So I think that what we've talked about previously was that there was, we wanted to incent these people to be able to be participating, that are early adopters, to participate in those sort of discussions around pricing, around what that level of transactions should be early on. And it's the way to seed the pond, right? To be able to put the seeds in the ground before the spring comes. We have to put some of these ideas out there so that when they land there, there's known issues that we want their feedback on. And I think pricing modules of whether it's a percentage or a transaction fee is one of those working group issues that is, clearly going to be an early discussion point and an early thing for dispute and for resolution and understanding on. And I think the steering committee could put some sort of rule in that identified early on that, in order to be able to cover our cost, the flexibility of the market is to, as it doubles, to be able to reduce the fee by no more than 15%, 7%, 5%, whatever the number is that the steering committee would be able to put in there to create the controls of, not letting the foxes rule the hen house too soon.
Yeah.
When the rules are in place and everybody is operating amongst them and the trust has been established, then they can rule the roost. But they initially we have to be able to get the roost set up and have the ecosystem involved. And
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, meant to be somewhat of a generic, because again, it's just a framework. It was meant to be somewhat of a catch-all generic. If there are things related to billing or pricing that would fit in the accounting group, this would be a place for them to discuss. I can certainly take it off if there's better wording. That's absolutely fine.
I like what you just said was better, of pricing information or billing structure and pricing information.
Yeah, concerns. How's that?
I don't know if concerns is the right word there.
Yeah, I agree. I was just looking at that going, that gives me kind of a feeling.
We don't want it's Friday afternoon.
Yeah. Requirements. opportunities, pricing opportunities.
That's better.
So much more positive.
Where were you guys?
I'm shooting for that.
Yeah, where were you when I was writing my dissertation? I could have so used this help.
I actually was in a meeting where that was offered with video, if you
Oh,
recall.
I actually remember that. I think I did offer as well.
You did. You
We both did. You know?
We're here for you, Denise.
We've had your back.
I appreciate that. I do like opportunities better, actually. Okay, so the next one is identify and review cost efficiencies due to data cleansing. The thought here was that we would have an opportunity to call out the efficiencies that the accounting folks are seeing, because you're going, wow, this used to cost X, now it costs Y, X minus, this is good.
Yeah, we might actually want to have a report come out from this working group for the industry, like, a white paper that highlights the efficiencies that are being produced.
Good call.
How's that?
Nice.
And that actually sort of leads to one of the outputs, which is financial reports as required for the DFMDC solution. That could be one of them. And then the next one is identify and review any financial reporting requirements specific to the DFMDC utility. We don't know quite what consortia requirements there may or may not be, and there might be, but I just wanted to call it out here. It's still a murky area. Are you plugged into that, Linda? Any of the fiduciary reporting requirements that blockchain
of consortia, or
it's being discussed. I'm part of like a legal blockchain team. So it's under heavy discussion, but I haven't seen anything yet that says, and these are new a la gap-ish, blockchain-ish requirements for consortia.
I personally have not seen any legally binding requirements for any blockchain-based consortia anywhere globally. I'm sure that it's coming because it's probably needed, but I haven't seen it. I think we need to be open and aware that it could impact what we need to do. But yeah.
Then if you're okay, I'll just leave this as it is, which is fairly open-ended, just on the anticipation of.
Perfect.
I think this looks pretty good. Can we look over the next one and kind of
Sure.
then have a chance at the end to be able to go through like each one of them and just make sure that we've maintained consistency through them from a structure standpoint?
Absolutely. So that's accounting. This is in alphabetical order, by the way. This is IT. And what I've done is moved some of what was in operations into IT, which is
SLAs.
Performance from a network perspective, performance from when I say holistic, I'm talking about the performance of, any of your subcontractors, whether that be Kilroy, or whether that be, IBM's BAS service, or its entire solution, but it's from a network performance and solution, right? Because solution sits on top of the network. I also added training here.
Can you explain that again, the training?
Yeah, because part of what I think is a value add, and in fact, I sent to David yesterday the beginnings of the governance 2-pager. This would be the customer collateral. But part of, and I've done some work in this space, part of what holds people back, and especially the folks in the logistics in industries, is the lack of training. They're somewhat kind of fearful of technology, and especially new technology. So I think part of what we're offering is a value add, that we're saying, hey, we're going to help you transform and move up your, the digital value chain faster, because when you adopt this solution, you are also going to get training on how this new technology works. And oh, by the way, the Food Safety Modernization Act is mandating this kind of track and trace. So you're going to have to get with the program, and boy, is this an easy way to get with the program. So I think solution training is actually quite a nice value add. And solution training it's this blockchain solution.
Yeah, it's also quite a lift. So yeah, this is the first time it makes total sense. I think it's a necessary component. It just it is going to be. That would almost be an education working group or a. I'm looking at, obviously it's IT that there's going to be the greatest aspect of training in that's necessary, but that literally building out modules that can help facilitate this upskilling of the companies that we would be working with that's sizable.
Especially when it becomes a mandate. From the federal government, it's that the upskilling, I think, is something that we're not perhaps capitalizing as much in our marketing efforts. I need to talk to David more about that. But traditionally there's a lot of tech talks, there's a lot of chalk talks, there's a lot of this kind of stuff that's traditionally done in the IT, or what I would call ops, but whatever you call it. But so they're sort of used to that, right? They're used to this kind of training that takes place. So actually, that's why I put it here.
Yeah, gotcha. I'm just saying we have to literally build out modules. And is that something that we're wanting the IT working group to be focused on?
So to some extent, they already are, Linda. As we've been building the solution, we've been building digital assets of visual representation of the elements that are being described so that they can be assembled quickly into learning material, and have begun that process. And David has worked yesterday with a guy that I've worked with named Vic that I introduced you to before, but he's been contracted and been working on these graphics with Sergey, and they're doing the new website design, and kind of bringing all of those pieces of that work that's been done to be able to build those assets into the display is a part of it. But the second part is that the user experience, when they first have a username and password and log in, there are elements that we're building called action items that are training material, that are literally walking people through the system of what the functions are and how to be able to complete the steps that they need to, and using the same visual graphics that are being developed for all of the work that's been done up to this point. So it's the assembly of that into learning material and delivery of that is something that we should be able to prototype and actually do very quickly. This gentleman named Vic, he did like 9 years at university doing this as like a sideline project for corporations, and I experienced it in the past and was able to capitalize on using it again for what we're doing here. But it's been very affordable to have these resources and to deploy them for training purposes. It's something that we actually have as a strength already in the organization.
No, that's great to hear.
That's probably going to be deployed across all modules though, right?
It will, but the scope of development for them, and it may be, Jeff, that you're right. It could be something that's a goal of each one of the areas to be able to have the functional educational, onboarding, training material, learning material.
Mm-hmm. Have
Yeah, embedded in the front end of the module for the individuals. They're going to be utilizing that module.
That's right.
Yeah.
So maybe that's just a staple that makes it across each one of these different proposed working groups as
Just
You know,
review and
that-
improvement of
Yeah.
what the DFM team has already created.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So a video library of training materials.
So it almost seems like each one of the different working groups would have have a library of training materials that would be delivered to different users based off of their role and permissions.
So it would be a review and enhance library of training materials. That would be one of the proposed activities of that working group.
Okay, that would then be maybe a separate sub-bullet underneath all of the working groups, which is each working group would have a library of new and enhanced training materials delivered to users of that working group.
I agree with that. I think that's the way that it would be organized most economically across each of the working groups.
Yeah, and it would be up to the working group to review what's provided and then work to enhance it over time. And in that way, putting the training in the hands of the DFMs and the working group input.
Let me add that to the framework because that's a good add right there.
I seem to remember that phrase, some phraseology in one of the early agreements about improving the onboarding process or providing feedback and improving the onboarding process.
Yeah, that's to go back and look at that, Jeff. I think you're right. Materials delivered to users of that working group. I just don't want to lose that thought. Okay. Now it's added as part of the framework. Okay, so that was accounting. That was IT. Anything else on IT?
Or
Lead should. Who do we have as lead in accounting?
It said account.
It says, let me go back.
It
Accounting,
should be accounting.
which of course we don't have, but then we don't.
Yeah, I would just put a TBD in there. That's the purpose of setting a framework here, is the fact that we're saying we don't have somebody that's here at the moment. This is just to be determined. We're setting this up because we needed to align with the technical user's experience of idea through a working group to a issue for the steering committee to be able to review. So.
Okay, that makes sense. And how about, you want to do the same for the IT?
I think so.
we're going to need to get a white hat to do a stress test on the DFMDC solution.
Get a what? I'm sorry, like that?
A white hat. Someone who's basically an ethical hacker.
Oh, okay.
You know, that,
As opposed to a black hat.
right. A black hat is somebody that does it and then they make you pay them 100 Bitcoin to get access
Right,
of
ransomware
your data
or
back,
whatever.
right? Yeah, exactly. So, this is when I was reading number 3, review the security of the DFM-DC solution as agreed by all parties. That was the thought that came to mind. There needs to be that security testing, and possibly ongoing with a bounty or something.
Yeah, and
For
that
anyone.
language is not good. As agreed by all parties that's tough to me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's what, Michael?
That's a high bar.
Well,
all parties. Yeah.
I can just say as agreed. By the way, we have been instructed ISO and IEEE to no longer use terms like whitelist, blacklist, white
That's
label.
good. I didn't want to use any of those.
Yeah, they have the master slave. Those are now unacceptable terms in the standards, global standards community.
So we're gonna have to go away from black hat, white hat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Parent child, but we can't do father son or mother daughter or.
Yeah, I actually did not see that, but I actually
parent child.
Yeah, it came out today. Master slave, blacklist, whitelist, anything is no longer acceptable in the global standards bodies. So you know. So is this better review the security of the DFM solution as agreed, or just take as agreed out?
Yeah, just take it out.
Yeah, that's better.
We've agreed.
Yeah,
take it out. And they could suggest improvements for the security of, so review and enhance. I mean, something that says that there's action that can be recommended to make it better.
And okay.
You could also embed that in number 4,
Yeah.
IT and security.
I kind of made that the catch-all, Linda, the identify enhancements needed to improve the DFM from an IT perspective. So it's sort of like a catch-all there.
Right. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
And these may, once these get stood up, of course, these are likely to change, right?
No, I think as soon as John Greaves takes a look at them, they're likely to change. I don't think we have to get all the way to the working group. No, it's like you said. This is a loose framework, and it's something to hang up the.
And I will chime in here just to say,
on.
look, we don't have to do this today. This doesn't have to be finalized today. We didn't put this in as being voted on for approval today. This was put on here and maybe up for a vote, but we really anticipated this being somewhat of a working session on it. And if we came to consensus and everybody agreed, then we could say that it was all good. But if not, Greaves isn't here, and we'd like to have his input. I
agree.
We got next week. We're talking about getting together on Monday at 1:00. We can share this recording with John and, let him have his opportunity to be able to put some notes on here too, and try to finish it up on Monday with anything that he adds to them. So I'd just try to get through the other ones also the similar way that we have here, and have it so that we can deliver this with context to him.
Okay.
Yep.
So moving then.
Denise, I'm sorry, Denise. Before we move on, can we add just one more piece to number 1? It seems like we've got all the major parts of the solution except the ingestion engine.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, thanks. That's good, Ed. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, thanks.
It is, but we should probably call it what we want to call it. Oh, is that what we're calling it? Is the ingestion engine for that piece? Is that what it's listed as on the diagram?
Data
ingestion service.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, let me go back.
Sorry, just trying to make sure that we were consistent with the document.
No, that's good. That's good. Actually, Jeff, thanks for sending that. The latest stack, I put it in the end of this document just for this reason, so we could refer back to it.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so that's the IT. And this is the marketing. Now, we didn't discuss it. This is based on feedback from David. In fact, this is David and Mike Turner's. So we have not previously reviewed this, so I think it makes sense to do that.
And they're available to join us on the call, I believe, if we wanted to be able to have their input at this point. We just didn't want to make them sit through the whole discussion on everything, but this was the slides that they both worked on together. So since this is proposed and truly something that we're looking to be able to start with as being the very next thing that would stand up, this wouldn't be a TBD in the led by. This would actually have names in here, and this would be stood up, I think, as the next working group, as I understood previous discussions.
Yeah, that is correct. I'm happy to shoot them a quick mail and see if they can join us if you and Linda and Jeff have questions for them on this one.
Yeah, I do have a question about number 2. the coordinating of ongoing pricing strategy. I thought that was covered in accounting, and I'm just wondering where the purview of marketing is on that. Although it goes into messaging potentially, I'm just
As into
curious.
sales. It's really
Yeah.
it's in each of the different work groups, I think, and we can certainly invite David and Mike to join us here to be able to have the conversation. I think we'll gladly join.
Okay.
Let me do that real quickly. Just give me 2 seconds and I'll let you, Linda, read through the rest of it because I don't think you've had a chance to.
So in number 5, where we added that in compliance with antitrust policy, I would put that at the very beginning of that sentence.
Okay. Hang on, it's not. Alrighty. There it is. Right here.
Yeah, take that part there and put that at the very beginning. Take the parens off of it and make it part of the sentence.
I think we could have fun adding the words best practices into each of these bullet points. I think it would probably be fitting on each of the points. Coordinate, coordinate best practices in ongoing pricing strategy. That's if I'm reading this right, with marketing, it's about perception, right? It's about saying what's current in the way the community is seeing things and what are best practices around addressing these major topics to the community effectively. Is that the role of marketing, or?
Well, I think marketing views its objectives as being more for the whole DFM industry, where the 2.5% to 3% that DFM may be making up of the total truckload moves at the moment, growing to a larger percentage is able to be accomplished because the industry as a whole will have the availability to have a more centralized message of work with a certified digital freight matching company that's got the authentication of purging phantom data from their system with the brand of DFM Data Corp in the bottom of their website, and you have more specific marketing budget for your differentiation and not for the whole value of what is a DFM.
Gotcha. Yeah, so there needs to be some dissemination, so including campaigns to raise awareness.
That's what that's talking about is the
right.
Yeah.
But then there needs to be dissemination of the product of the other working groups. Like
good point.
What the impact zone is when it comes to the bottom line. So you'd pull from the finance side.
Yep.
And it seems like that would be the role of the marketing working group, is to take the
operational
evidence,
improvement stuff, the IT stuff, and all of that to be able to socialize that. That's really good insight.
Aggregate message. Yep.
I'm keeping a watch on the participants so that David and Mike can answer those as well.
You sent them an invite, Denise?
I did. I texted it and I emailed it to them. So I'm sure they'll be joining momentarily.
So the one that's after this one?
There is not. The only thing we
Okay,
have
that's fine.
open for discussion, while we're waiting, we can have it, is going back to this governance, is do we want a separate governance working group? And Linda and Jeff, I'll just give, because I talked to Michael earlier about this. We do have a module called governance. We have obviously a governance function, but in my head, I was just thinking governance was sort of managing the working groups and then managing the steering committee, not necessarily having a separate standalone governance working group, even though we do have a module named that. I think I was just so busy concentrating on everyone else, forgot about this. So the question is, do we want a separate governance working group? And if so, what would that do that's different than managing the other working groups and the steering committee?
Well, I think you just said it. That's what it is managing the working groups and the steering committee. It's not being the steering committee. It is having that oversight of the big picture and being intentional about having that overarching view. I mean, that's my perspective on the governance aspect of it. Is the steering committee supposed to have that overarching purview? If so, then there doesn't need to be another quote governance module. But if there is a need to have that overarching view, including of the steering committee, to say, is this governance structure itself functional and working as it was expected and designed to, then there should be a governance working
See,
group.
I see the governance working group overseeing the governance of each organization's execution of their documentation.
Are we talking about the governance of the individual DFMs or the governance of DFM DC
Well,
as a
that's again, you're right. There is two roles of it, right? There is Denise's user experience of being able to log into the system is that of being able to control what is displayed to the governance module admin of every organization, and to demonstrate to them, these are the documents that are available and needed to be signed. And she's that first touch point with each one of them. But there's also the side that the ideas that come from those same companies that she was the first touch point with, when they've had new ideas that have now made it to a module and their company's designee has said, yeah, this idea from our login is a good idea for this module, then it's going to come to the working group for that module. And Denise wouldn't see it at that point, but she actually has visibility to it. I mean, can see what all of those ideas are from all of those modules that are being festered up, because she's got ability to see the working groups and see who's in the working groups. And, you know, so that's the administrative role of a DFM Data Corp user of that one module. So there's a designation for Denise as being the administrator of that module where she can create that. But marketing has a similar function. Ops has a similar function where they can put the documents in there that need to be done from an operational perspective for, you know, downloading the configuration file or the software or the README that goes along with the install pack.
Right. So does Denise want a group of people working with her to manage and brainstorm and facilitate shifts? I mean, I guess that's other than the steering committee, who else has that role?
There will be one of them in every company, in every organization, but there's really not anybody but me who is the backup for each one of the DFM Data Corp admin of each module.
Is there ongoing work to maintain documents and such that they would have to have a group as opposed to acting individually against the ideas?
So No, the acting against the ideas is what most people are going to do inside of any of the modules for, you know, the feature sets. The governance tab is, you know, or the documents tab is common across each one of them, but there's we really only have defined what documents are going to be available for the governance tab.
Mhm.
You know, the other modules have been built to be a framework for dynamic content to be administered by the DFM Data Corp admin that displays what the messaging is for each one of the user organizations. And again, each organization is only going to have one admin, you know, for the governance working group.
Right.
That's going to be their authorized signature and the company designee.
I guess I'm just not understanding their function within a group as opposed to their individual actions.
Yeah, this question's kind of, to me, feels a little out of kilter, because to me the steering committee is just like a different layer than any of the working groups, and each one of the working groups is going to have ideas that come up from them, and they're going to go to that working group. And governance is going to have the same thing. It's going to have ideas, and they're going to go up to the working group. But governance is also going to have view over the ideas that come in from accounting and from IT and from marketing and from operations, because it's part of governance. For the fact that they came up as ideas and that they're being floated through the working groups and up through to the steering committee.
I mean, there are potential things that a governance group would have, and different consortiums call them different things, right? So it could be legal sort of types of things that come up. It could be membership that comes up. It could be, you know, we really want to have another ecosystem, and it happens to be a banking ecosystem that's core to 3. There's now governance required in business logic, and just sheer governance required to manage that, because you've got a different set of regulatory requirements from a banking environment than you would from a DOT environment, right? Like you would from a medical consortium. They have HIPAA, and, you know, so there are different regulatory concerns and technical and business logic concerns when you start hitching up your horse to another blockchain flavor. It's just how it is. So those are the types of things that a governance group would potentially handle. You know, that's looking down the road a piece, of course.
Yeah, I think just for consistency of there being, you know, there's 5 modules, there's 5 working groups, and then there's a steering committee. I think that just makes more sense. The steering committee is a different category. There's only 3 different users from them, and, you know, 2 of them are truly listed as being contributing members currently, because Linda doesn't have the DFM account inside of the command center. So she doesn't have a way to be able to vote from inside of the system currently. And if for her to get one, it would be me sending an invitation to her to be able to log in to be part of the steering committee. But it wouldn't be to be part of the working groups, right?
Well, let me do this. Let me come up with, and this is not an immediate need, not like the license agreement. Let me come up with some language around what a governance working group would do. We can discuss that next week. And if it makes sense, and if we feel like, yeah, we do need a standalone group to do this, fine, we can include it as part of the framework. If we don't, we can just stand down for now. Does that make sense?
Perfect.
Because I've not given you any language to review. What's here is for the steering committee. So I'll do that. A charter and our roles and responsibilities for a standalone governance working group. Okay, we've got everyone all right with that before I move on?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, we have Mike has joined us for the discussion on the marketing working group. So I'll go back to that. And I do not have David yet, but I'm keeping an eye on the participants. So I know, Linda, I believe you had a couple of questions. One, you had mentioned best practices. There's a couple of things that you had mentioned on this one.
Yeah, I had asked about the coordinating of ongoing pricing strategy, what the thinking was behind that as it regards to marketing specifically. And then the other comment was that there needed to be an aggregation of inputs from the other committees for dissemination, both to the DFMs and potentially on a marketing effort to the industry and just educating at large. So,
Yes. So, hi, Linda and team. So the thinking on the ongoing pricing strategy was in reference to as we think through future or potential fees that each DFM is going to have to facilitate. We have somewhat of a range that we think we're talking about in reference to what a particular DFM might pay. And ultimately, as we work with a particular DFM, there could be one-off, an individual conversation as to what we might do for that DFM in order to bring them on board, what fee might be charged from an ongoing perspective in reference to what they are going to pay, and or there might be some fluctuation or flexibility in reference to how we manage either the licensing fee and or the upfront fee that they would have to pay, the membership fee they would have to pay in order to come on board. So some of those things, as we understand how they work, as we understand how those processes unfold, ongoing pricing strategy can then get some commonality around how a DFM might work at a certain level, so you can begin to get a different degree of consistency. That was the thinking there.
I'm still unclear, I have to be honest.
Okay, what's the clarity?
It sounded like, Mike, you were.
Just to clarify my lack of clarity, my understanding is this working group is going to be made up of already onboarded DFMs, representatives of already onboarded DFMs, not necessarily the marketing team of DFM DC. Is that correct?
I think there will be both there.
Yeah, in order to be on the working group, they have to be a member of good standing.
Right.
Okay. I'm just, I understand the marketing working group being, carrying on a discussion on how to best communicate about pricing, to support the education of DFMs that are looking to onboard in regard to pricing. I just don't see it as coordinating the pricing strategy. Strategy just, it seems more of like a business decision, maybe more of an accounting area. I don't know if this is, I'm trying to wrap my mind around the purpose of a marketing working group made up of onboarded DFMs actually coordinating pricing strategy versus coordinating communication around current pricing, or making recommendations potentially around how pricing is perceived and potentially should be adjusted. Anyway, it's maybe just a semantics thing. Right. No. Pricing, not in the industry, but pricing, the per load versus,
transaction
percent transaction pricing, that sort of thing.
See,
So.
I thought, first of all, this was originally marketing and sales, just so you know, Linda, when we originally did this, it was the two together, and that's why
Gotcha.
then we decided to keep marketing, just marketing, because it matches the modules. But from my perspective, the pricing strategy, at some point, there will be an increase. Let's just say that we go from X to Y as far as the number of transactions. Well, IBM's going to charge us for that. They're not going to let us double up on transactions and the price point not raise, right? We know that. So we want to make certain that the prices that we charge, the pricing strategy, price per transaction, whatever it is, has to cover the costs of the solution. And to me, that's what point 2 is speaking to. And Mike, correct me if I'm speaking out of turn here, but it was to make certain also that our pricing manages the cost of goods sold or cost of services sold.
Yeah, you just clarified it for me. I apologize for interrupting. That does clarify when you said it was marketing and sales. But now that it's strictly marketing, maybe addressing it differently is appropriate.
So in the system, Linda, the module that's available for sales is called pre-sales. And we're likely going to change that at some point. I haven't made any real big push to be able to do so, but there isn't currently a sales module that is customer facing. When they land in governance. Our sales module is truly pre-sales of being able to get them into the system. The ongoing support we have in an area that's called organizational support. And that's when they've been onboarded, that they're now a customer. And at that point, they're mostly in the purview of Jeff and the operation side of onboarding and doing each of the different technical module elements that requirements for each of the different technical modules. Those same things that will be what the training materials are.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yep.
So would it be better to say coordinate ongoing rather than pricing, but just
We
Go ahead, Mike.
So Linda, is the concern around saying strategy, or is it ongoing pricing communication, or ongoing pricing dynamics?
Yeah,
Something
it's when marketing, I mean, that what I'm trying to do is dial into, what is the purpose of the representatives of the DFMs that are coming to the table to participate in a marketing working group. And I just don't see pricing strategy being within their purview. I see pricing communication, pricing perception, being within their purview, and something that they could and should communicate potentially to other working groups that are strictly that is within their purview. So yes, it was
Right.
the pricing strategy. I just didn't see how it fit into the marketing working group. So communicating about pricing,
Right.
It's a communication role, I believe, that is the focus for marketing.
So how about communicate ongoing pricing?
How about fees and services, or fees for services? I mean, is that really what we're talking about? Is what the fee is for our service that we're offering to this community of our customers?
It really is. It really is. And I think that gets us out of antitrust territory as well.
Yeah. Because I feel like we're getting closer and closer to it with antitrust, and I don't want to. I want to make it
Right.
the clear distinction from it. It's it's our fees. It's what the fee is for our service.
Right. And the perception of the community around those fees, and what those fees should be, covering, and how they should rise or fall over time, depending on volume. I mean, those things.
Yeah, I think strategy can go there, Denise. I think you're right on, Linda.
Yeah, if it has to do with communicating, it is a communication strategy around that topic.
I agree. That makes sense. And that covers us too.
Yeah.
The event that the cost of the service is going to increase, then the transaction fees will increase too, but we're going to be very transparent about it, right?
They actually hopefully won't increase. They should decrease over time with volume.
Scale.
But scale, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I think
definitely
we're.
something. Go ahead, Mike.
Go
Sorry.
ahead, I'm sorry. No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, there will be a cost per will decrease with volume, but the overall cost will increase, right? So if I'm burning up twice as much CPU time, my price per CPU second might be half a second less, but my overall, IBM's not going to charge, they're going to charge perhaps less for consumption, but overall, they're not going to give me twice as much volume at half the amount of cost, right? My price per will decrease, and that we expect to see that in the pricing from IBM.
Right. Yeah, and communicating that with the community as things progress, I think is well within the purview of the marketing working group.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too. I think this is much clearer. I think it's a good ad, actually.
Do you,
Yeah,
do you
I'm
think the word strategy should be in there, Linda, next to communicate?
Well, you're communicating what they are as well as why they are what they are, which is, I guess, strategy. It's why, this is why we're doing what we're doing. It's communicating.
correct.
So that the community
was the intent.
understands, and yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, and I think with the reviewing accomplishments and challenges, I think once again and communicating them to the DFMs, the greater marketplace. I don't know what words you'd want to put in there, but I think that communication part, it's all well and good if we review accomplishments and challenges, but if you don't do something with
Is that the review and disseminate?
Yeah, right. Disseminate, communicate, aggregate, and publish.
I can do disseminate for now. Gosh, how do I spell disseminate? It's not right. There it is.
You got it.
Yeah. Yep.
I like that.
Because the intent there is we will need them for third-party reference information or other feedback that once we have an accomplishment or a goal that's set, one of them can be a part of ensuring that third-party reference information is available.
Mhm.
Denise, in number 2, after it says communicate, can you put cost benefit for?
That so dials into marketing. That's perfect. Yeah, and I think, having all of these be not only the, awareness, identification, but then the communication of these things that's the marketing needs to, that group needs to be pulling together the data, and then, okay, how can we best socialize this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. And just because of the math behind it, it should say benefit minus cost.
I'm sorry, Michael, say again.
It's just me being Aspergery, but it's the math behind it is the benefit minus the cost is
Okay.
what communicates what your ROI is, but cost dash benefit looks like cost minus benefit, and that would give you
forward slash.
inverse occasion. Yeah, you need some other connector there besides the
Forward slash.
mathematical.
Yeah.
That's better. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, yeah, put a slash, yeah.
Is that better?
Yes, thank you. Sorry for being a stickler.
No worries. No, it doesn't bother me at all. It makes it much better. Voices are good.
And then I think you referenced a second concern that I didn't capture.
Mike, you're breaking up for me. Can you
Yeah,
repeat
broke
that?
up for me too. Try that again.
No, I was just referencing, I thought Linda had referenced a second concern that we needed to go through as well.
Yes. Sorry, I was on mute. I was talking away.
And I'm going to switch to my laptop because my phone is not working well from here. I'll do that.
Okay, no worries, Mike.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I was just wanting to bring action into the working group where it wasn't just, okay, we're identifying things, we're reviewing things, but we're building action plans and recommending the go-to-market place with this data that we've identified and reviewed and collected.
Yeah, total agreement there.
Yeah.
So I think 4 kind of has that identify the best practices. How do we get them? How do you coordinate the development of DFMDC and DFM marketplace brand best practices? Would we be publishing those best practices? Would this be like, how would that be
Yes, there would
put
be an
forward?
intent to publish.
Okay.
Okay. So
White papers or other things of that nature that would come from the content that we can produce.
Yeah.
And I think this is the one where it's on about the marketplace in total, where it wouldn't be brand best practices across the DFMs. I think that's where I had a concern about antitrust. This is about the industry and the marketplace.
So I had thought, Jeff, you were referring to 0.5 here, which I think actually was appropriate.
Right.
We could certainly add it to 0.4, but so is this fine the way it stands, or do we want to add publish, or do we want to replace, say, coordinate? I mean, once you use terms like coordinate and share and cross share, then you do have to be careful of too much sharing and collusion, right?
Yeah. Coordinate is probably a sticky word there for us.
Mm-hmm. And we could certainly say publish here. We could certainly perhaps say publish marketplace brand.
Or just marketplace best practices.
Yeah. I'm with you. How's that? I'm not really sure now what the difference is between 4 and 5.
David's email, when I had raised the concern, said something about developing standards across the industry and having some type of mark like a TIA mark. It was more about ethics and standards, which I think needs a, I'm not sure 5 does justice to that. But
well, if we're going to be publishing standards for the industry, we're kicking off an entire set of scrutiny.
Yeah. Well, and this was just, this was 15 minutes before the steering committee meeting. So
yeah. No, fair enough. I think what we've done is we've cleaned up 4, but I think now 4 and 5 are so close that we can probably, I think, get rid of 4 for now and keep 5 because it has the antitrust policy as well.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
It is close. So I think you're.
I'm sorry, Mike, you're breaking up. Oh, there you are.
No, I said I'm in agreement.
Okay. All right. Michael, you all right with that? If I remove this?
Yeah, I think so.
It just allows us to talk about sharing now that we've got the antitrust policy nod there.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay. So has not changed from the previous week. So no news here. And then this final one is the document package. We had this discussion. The only thing I've added here is the antitrust policy, which we did have approval last week. So we've got one more green here, which is good. The goal is to have all of these, or most of these, green. Certainly, if we can, by the license agreement, would love that to be green by Monday. But you see sort of the T's and C's, so you see the progress that we're making. But nothing else has changed, so we know what our plan is for Monday. I texted John too, by the way, John Grease, see if he can join.
Perfect.
So given the conversation that we had today, I feel comfortable with the changes that we made with the accounting work group, the IT work group, the marketing work group, and I know there's work to be done on the governance work group. So are you comfortable with having a vote for not the framework? I really think I need to do the governance, but at least standing up the working groups, or would you prefer to wait until next week?
I think a review of the governance framework for that working group that you're going to be working on would probably be appropriate prior to voting on the overall working group structure.
Okay.
I don't think we lose anything by waiting till next week to
Yeah.
get a further review of the documents. There's nothing that's waiting for it right now. So it's good progress. We have the frameworks in place, and we need to just clean them up a little bit so that they're ready for us to really take a good solid look at when we look at the documents on Monday.
All right. I think that sounds like a very solid plan. So I know what I need to do. And let me go back to the agenda. So there's no new business that we had added to the agenda. Anything else that anyone wants to bring up before we adjourn the meeting?
So just one thing, there was a discussion that took place today that puts a date on the calendar on September 30th. There is a meeting that is to be held in North Dallas at the Hedera Hashgraph facility with the digital freight matching companies that are participating in a discussion that will be hosted and assisted in being organized by the Texas Blockchain Association, and they will coordinate the event to take place on the 30th. So they have a media room for us to be able to present from. We'll have the room for the day and have the opportunity to be able to have a place for a state of Texas discussion where potentially the Texas DOT would have a representative there for a portion of it, and Lee Bratcher believes that he can also get some folks from the legal side of their lobbying efforts. So it's good news. Earlier today, we have a date for the future. So there's some things to be able to look forward to, being able to go to Texas. And it's truly what the intent was for the first minimum viable ecosystem, was to be this Texas 19. And we have a window that we got to pick the day today of being able to set that meeting for September 30th.
It's fantastic news, Michael.
Great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Really, really exciting.
Yeah.
And that should come on the heels of the article, right?
Right on the heels of the article, right on the heels of the new website, right on the heels of, hold on guys, because everybody's getting a letter too. So
Yeah.
we're gonna have to be ready with all of our operational efforts, and that's the reason for doing this work right now of knocking down the trees and making the pathway for the communications to take place. And
Yeah.
It's not very rewarding work at the moment, but it's really necessary, and I really appreciate everybody's time of going through the scrutiny of the steps that we've had to go through to be able to stand this up and get ourselves ready.
Yeah.
Excellent. And I know you'll
Great news.
oh yeah, what sort of support you need for that September 30th meeting, as in who needs to be there and what support you need from all of us.
I appreciate that. I will. I had David on the phone earlier today. I actually had him on the call with Lee, and I sent a recording of that call to you, Denise, earlier today, I believe. So you feel free to be able to take a review of it as well. And it should be good progress. Looking forward to it.
No, that's this is to Grayson's point, saying, you know, Texas is the gateway, and you have Canada going through Texas to get to Mexico, and this is just one of those great tie-in points to really get the North Americas. So
Well, yeah,
I'm really excited about that.
Texas has ports and cross-border and cross-river. I mean, there's all sorts of really great interaction that takes place in that state that is really makes it a great match.
Yep.
And the DFMs participating is a nice cross-section for us as well.
Well, I think so too. It's really going to be just about, you know, messaging with those DFMs and having them be able to participate in an event and have the opportunity to seize the moment.
Do you have a list of those 19 that you could share, Michael?
I do.
Perfect.
I'll send it to you as soon as we get off of this meeting.
Okay, thanks so much.
Hey, Michael, the whole Texas blockchain documentation that Dave put together before has that 19 in there. If you haven't shared that
It
before.
does, yes, sir. That's what I was planning on sending over to Linda.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, if you have it handy and you can send it to her now, that would be fine too. Save me a step.
I'll take care of it. I'll get it.
Do you have it, Mike, handy, or you got Linda's address? Which one do you want it to go to, Linda?
It can go to linda@blockchainchamber.org.
Oh, I got that address.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, guys.
Wonderful,
Denise,
guys.
appreciate you.
Thank you. During the meeting.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
weekend.
All right, thanks.
Bye-bye.